The title of this video might seem a little bit clickbaity, but it's a legitimate question. Can your graphics card do this? Cooler Master's Master Key Pro series of keyboards offer 16.7 million color RGB, genuine cherry switches, a variety of sizes, as well as surface-mounted controls allowing full customization without the need for standalone software. Learn more by following the link down below. Obviously, I am talking about the ASUS GTX1080Ti Poseidon. This is a card you guys have asked me to do a review on. I've actually had it in the office now for a couple of weeks, and I decided to wait for the whole water cooling, summertime videos that I like to do before we actually decided to go ahead and dive into this. Now, that's no pun intended, but we are diving into this because we're gonna test this in a few different ways. We're gonna see how it performs on air, we're gonna see how it performs on water, and of course, we're gonna check out some overclocking and see if we gain any sort of headroom on air or water when it comes to overclocking, or if we're kind of hard capped at some of the other limitations that exist on the GPUs before we ever reach any sort of thermal limit. Right here on the box, they're pretty forthcoming with what you could expect. They're only showing a 5C drop over Founders, and that probably seems a little bit disappointing if you were to buy a card like this and expect to just stick it on in your PC, let the fans do their job, and expect it to be cooler than the, 78C that they are showing right here. That's probably nothing to really brag about. Now, if you put it on water, they're saying you can expect a 30C drop in temperatures over the Founders card, with the temperature sitting right around 53. Again, not as cool as some of even the hybrid cards that we've seen that stay deep into the 40s with a dedicated water block. But obviously none of those cards can do what this one can, which allows you the flexibility of deciding whether or not you want water or you want air. The question is though, if you're gonna stick with one or the other, are you really kind of doing yourself a disservice? Let's go through the review and find out.
Transition.
Okay, so we've had this running now for a while. Looks like we're hitting about 75C. It bounces anywhere between 73 to 75. And that makes sense considering we're in an open air test bench. So you put this in a case, you might rise a couple of degrees and see these 78 that it's talking about. Our max temperatures, it says 75, just like I said, but we actually did reach a core clock of 2012. So that's not too bad, but we were running, once temperatures reached up to the 75C, we stayed at a very consistent 1974. That's actually not bad. Remember, we are in the OC mode though. Now what about overclocking? Let's see what we can max out on air. Now I've had quite a few 1080 Ti's come through this studio so far, and I've got some more waiting to be reviewed and more on the way. But if there's something I've learned while watching other people's reviews, and yeah, I nerd out over this stuff and I like to see what other people are saying as well, is I can tell you that most of them will hit about 2020. Some of the good ones will hit 2050, and very rarely will they go higher than that, like a 2063. But let me tell you right now that this card, the Poseidon right now, on air, now granted I'm using a manual fan curve, I've got it set to 90% because we are overclocking it and pushed everything to the right, is sitting at 58C, it'll probably hit around 63C at 2088 megahertz. These GPUs do not like to go anywhere near 2100. This one actually hit 2101. Now it wasn't perfectly stable, but if I tried to do 2101 with any other card that came through here so far, if I tried to go anything over like 2050, they would just instant crash when I would start the benchmark. But this one's still running right now, 2088, and it's got a 61C right now. So the air cooler can clearly do its job if you ramp up the fan speed. That should be pretty self-evident with any air-cooled card. But right now, if we take a look at the curve on here, you can see, there it is right there, 2088, and there's our 2101 I told you about right there. So it did run 2101, you can see the system's still running. We had a slight hiccup, it basically goes black screen, but it comes back. It doesn't completely hard crash or lock up, but there we are right there at 2088. That is highly impressive. Remember, we're not even on water yet. So obviously the results on air were pretty damn good. So let's go ahead and put it on water and let's see what happens. It's gonna be hard. I don't imagine it going any higher than the 2088. I think there's other things that are factoring here with our limitation. But obviously, the cool part is you can water cool it and you don't have to take it apart. That's nice. just saw me do one of the most ridiculous things I think I've ever had to do since water cooling by gaff taping my fans to the radiator, because when I grabbed the stuff from the shop, I forgot to grab the screws for the radiator fans. But hey, it works, and if anything, it's kind of sealing up some of the gaps. So anyway, here we are. We've got our temporary loop set up with the Poseidon. I turned the fans off because I'm gonna do this in 2 different ways too. I want to test it with the fans off, just the GPU block. I don't know why anyone would do that, but I wanna see what the temperature's like with just the GPU block. Now check out the idle temps. That came down already 23 degrees on idle. We came down to 32C. Remember, it was idling at 55C with the fans off. So that's kind of neat. But yeah, so here's what we're gonna do. We are gonna go ahead and let Valley Benchmark run once again. And I do have the overclock applied, the last overclock that we did, the 2088. That one is currently applied right now, so we're gonna leave all those settings except for the fan off. And I wanna see where the temperatures are gonna max out. Then I'm gonna turn the fans on while it's running and see if the temps come down at all. And then we'll see if the overclocking improved. So it looks like we capped out at 51C, and I am now going to turn on the radiator fans. Also too, something important to point out is I only have these fans running at 50%, an inaudible 50% on an 1850 RPM fan, so we're running roughly 900 to 1000 RPM. So let's do this. Let me go ahead and click on the fan on the GPU, and I'll put it at 60% because they're pretty quiet. So I'm just gonna let this run now and see if the temperatures come down. And with the GPU fans going, it dropped down to about 48C. So we're seeing about 2 to 3C drop with the fans running at a conservative 60%, inaudible. You can't even really hear them. But remember, this radiator right here is running only at 50%, and it's pretty warm, it's pretty saturated. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna let these fans go balls to the wall, and let's see how far it comes down then. And at our 2088 clock, if you're willing to sacrifice some noise and the fan's at 100% right here, our temperatures came all the way down to 42C. So what does that mean? Well, it means that whatever rating they're putting on the box is obviously pretty conservative on the water block. There's lots of different factors here: open air test bench, the type of chassis you've got, the type of fans you have, the size of the radiator. But obviously here with the 240, 1850 RPM fans, and leaving the fans on the GPU just kind of doing its own thing, we came all the way down to 42C. So you can see the range there, right? It can go as high as like the 50s or as low as like 41, 42, depending on your setup. I guess the next thing to test here is whether or not we can get any more overclock. Now we can do this live instead of having to cut the camera and go through all the process, because I've got it set to where it was max stable right now on air. So the moment we do this, you can see our max clock. Oh, as soon as I closed it, it went away. But anyway, we'll leave that open here. So let's go ahead and go up one more step. We'll just add one step to this, because remember, GPU clock goes in steps on NVIDIA, not 1 megahertz at a time like AMD. So let's see what happens. Will it run 2101 without crashing? Like I said, 2101 on air, just air, would go for a little while like this, but then it would kind of black screen and come back and still run 2101, and every now and then we get like the application has crashed warning. But I think Nick would agree that we are so far farther into this test than we've been getting with 2101. Wow. So like I said, it's not the quietest setup, obviously, but that's because right now I'm testing its max cooling capacity, 41C on water. That's roughly what you get with a custom block. So as you can see, you could definitely tune this thing to get better performance in terms of cooling. So I think their numbers on the box are extremely conservative. We haven't crashed yet on this. Normally we would crash by now. Now I would also test a stability test like this by letting a loop run for at least an hour without a crash. But I'm curious now if we can go higher, because we've already seen by simply adding water to it and letting it cool itself down, and VRMs included. VRMs are water cooled on this as well. It's a full cover block. Obviously there's some benefit to be had there. So as you can see it right there though, 2101 is what we ran in that little bit of a test right there. I don't have a single 1080 Ti that's come anywhere near that so far. What's the next step gonna be? Like 2114? 2113. It didn't crash. Oh, there it goes. Okay, so we got a little bit farther. Let's see if it comes back. Nope. Okay, so I think it's fair to say that this card is already performing admirably. Definitely. I mean, it's the fastest GPU I've had come in here yet. Temperatures are good. I mean, on the air-cooled temps, as long as you run the fans a little bit higher than whatever their factory curve is, you can definitely get the temps lower than that 78C they show on the box. And depending on the size of the rad and the type of fans you put on there, you can get all the way down to 41C on water and overclocked. That's insane. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna go now. Tell me what you guys think about the Poseidon card. It's been missing in action ever since the 780 Ti. It came back with a vengeance. It's got a heck of a lot of design input or philosophy on there. The barbs look better. The infinity window looks cool. It's got the glowing logo on the backside. And I think it would accent pretty much any system. It would look great in there. The infinity window is definitely a neat touch, that's for sure. So yeah, tell me what you guys think. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Man, 2101.